I uncomfortable with this body because I've been trained to be uncomfortable with this body. Am I uncomfortable with myself because I've been trained to be uncomfortable with myself? And is there actually anything wrong with me or wrong with it? And most of the time, the answer is no. We've just been taught very narrow standards of what is normal and what is acceptable, when there is this whole wonderful, diverse world out there that we're like missing out on.
Hello and welcome to another episode of Idioms of Normality on Future Framed TV, the collective podcast series of Traces&Dreams. I'm joined today with Amanda Thorson. Hello.
Hello.
And welcome to this series. Now, I need to do a special welcome to you because you're our first photographer on the series.
Thank you.
So I'm really excited to talk with you because I have no photographic skills. I'm completely visually inept, no visual art skills at all. So my question is going to be really, really super naive, but the first question is super easy. And that is, tell us a bit about yourself. What are the perspectives and experiences that you bring to this question of normality? I
spend a lot of time with people and bodies, and I'm a portrait photographer, so I primarily photograph people. I started in weddings and moved more into portraits, and then as I'm getting older, my direction has moved more into fine art portraits and a lot of nudity, like naked ladies. I photograph a lot of naked ladies. So yeah, I think, which is an unusual kind of thing, that I grew up in a reasonably conservative family. And so now I'm really exploring my own body. And I think since having a daughter, it really got me thinking about how women think about their own bodies. And I've kind of injected that into my work.
Yeah, and how society sort of says the way that bodies should be, and this is why I'm so excited. And I've come across your work through this book that you're launching soon, There Is No Normal. And I don't want to, I know that we're going to get into this book, but to get into that book, let me ask you the question: what is normal?
I think, as far as bodies go, we're told that normal is small, young, trim, toned. All the things that we see in the media, I guess, is what we're taught is normal. Bodies, white as well. We're just, I think, especially if you think about growing up, I did as a teenager, the bodies that I saw were always ones that looked a very particular way. And I was always shocked if a body was bigger or different shaped, enough that it kind of sticks in my mind 20 years later.
And media does that too, doesn't it? I still remember growing up, my mum used to collect women's weeklies and I can't even remember all the titles of all these magazines. She used to collect them for nursing homes, but before she passed them on to the nursing homes, she had them next to our bathroom toilet. So I spent my adolescence reading the Mere Mail column and reading these magazines, and a lot of the flash grabby headlines were, oh, look who's put on weight, or oh my gosh, did you know this person has an extra toe, or the fact that there was a star who was a bit abnormal or something was had some abnormal, or their beauty had gone or something, that was cause to talk about it. And when you've got this kind of media saying, oh, if someone's put on weight, then it's reason that we should be gossiping about them, then I can totally understand that experience. And I had the same thing, particularly, people would make comments about, oh, you've put on weight, or, or behind their back, more insidiously, oh, look at how that person's put on weight. And then, it, potentially makes you think about your own body as well.
Yes.
And becoming a parent has really made you question this?
Oh, so much. I think I have two kids. When my son was born, like obviously my body changing and growing a human and just everything kind of stretching and stuff, like that got me thinking about things. But I really decided to change my own kind of thinking about things when my daughter was born in 2017. And I just remember that perfect little creature, like when she came out of me, and I just looked at her and I was just like, you are not going to have the same experience that I had. I don't want you to feel bad about yourself. And so like my mum, she's a wonderful lady. She was like always put on diets and things like that by her mum growing up. She was kind of shamed for her body and spent her whole life unhappy with how she looked. And so she made a point of thinking, I am not going to put that onto Amanda. So I was never put on diets and things as a teenager, but my mum talked really poorly about herself. She would always, she never said a bad word about me, but about her own body. She'd be like, I'm gross, I need to lose weight, I'm disgusting. And the thing in my mind that didn't quite click was the fact that we looked really similar, like we have the same body type. And so even though she was telling me that I was wonderful, I was getting mixed messages. And so I decided that I needed to take that a step further with my own daughter. And I was like, okay, well, not only can I not say bad things about you, but I can't say bad things about myself. And to do that, I need to change how I feel about myself. So I think it was 6 months after she was born, I went to the swimming pool and I didn't wear board shorts for the first time in 20 years. And so like no one had seen my thighs in like, well, my husband had seen my thighs, but no one else had seen my thighs in like, since I was probably like 13 or 14, because I was told that that was like a problem area of my body. So I needed to
You were
hide
told?
it. Well, just like by the world, like right. As far as like and because you're taught as a woman that there are like problem areas that you need to disguise, and I had cellulite, so I was like, oh well, if I'm told that I need to hide this and that I'm a so-called pear shape, then I can, because I have a flat stomach, I can show that, but I can't show my butt and my thighs. And so
it's the Instagrammers who are like, you know, to show your thigh gap, move your body like this, or
exactly.
To
yes, it's ridiculous. Like we're bombarded with this stuff. So I just remember walking around that swimming pool and I was terrified. And I actually had a conversation with someone while I was there. And I don't remember what we talked about, because I just remember standing there being like, you're in your swimsuit, you're in your swimmers, someone's talking to you, they can see your thighs. But that was like my first step of rebellion, that I was like, no, I'm not going to feel this way about my body. And I have just changed so much in the last kind of 4 years of my life. And that has really injected into my work.
I'm interested in that narrative that we inculcate, but that we also perpetuate. That narrative that fills your brain of, oh my gosh, how do I look? And like, I'm concerned about how I look, when that detracts from the connection you can make with another person based on what's happening inside your heart, inside your mind, and inside your world in other ways. And I'm also interested in how you got rid of that, like how you excised.
Yeah.
Because it must come, I mean, I know from my own personal experience, you think you've got rid of it and then it comes back again.
Yes. And it's like anything, like I have pretty much gotten rid of it through just hard work, like fighting the lies, changing the media that I look at. I spend a lot of time looking at women's bodies who are not that normal idea of beauty. And it was actually through that this book came out of, because I made it was a priority to me that I looked at different types of bodies, because I heard the idea that you can kind of retrain your brain as to what is beautiful and to, as to what is good. And what I found was actually at the time I was photographing quite a few births and things as well. So I kind of saw all of women's bodies. And I found that the more bodies that I looked at and the more diverse they were, the kinder I was to myself, because I saw that the bodies that we are presented with in the media is just such a small subset, and it's actually the minority of what like bodies are like in the world. And so I think the biggest thing I did was just looking at different bodies all the time. And
not just looking at them, but also sharing those images through this new medium.
Well, I've actually really felt convicted as to the fact that as photographers and as like image makers, that we need to be the ones leading the way and putting different shapes and sizes and ethnicities and people with disabilities into our work, so that people can see the diversity of the world and not just like skinny white women. And
I mean, it's funny because as you were talking, I was reflecting on my own experience becoming a father. Like, I started seeing mothers' bodies completely differently. Like, I just was like worshipping the maternal body, because I was like, wow, like you do this incredible thing and this absolutely amazing thing that it transforms your body. But like, I can't even explain it, but that the transformation that body has gone through in order to produce these tiny little creatures that come into the world. Babies, human babies.
Babies. They do kind of look like aliens when they come out though. So
not mine were gorgeous.
Oh really? No, my son looked like a cone head.
But actually you also said something which was completely fascinating, and that was you photograph births as well. Is that?
I used to, I did for a while. I've stopped now just because it's very like you can't schedule it in, and so I was having trouble like structuring my life around people's birth schedules. And so
of course, because those births can be at any time of day and for prolonged periods of time. And
and you're like middle of the night. Most of the time would be like 3 a.m. and there was times when I was like, I'd just had a baby recently myself, and I was like in between contractions. I was like off pumping my own milk in like a back room, and then photographing this baby coming out and going home and feeding my own baby. And it just became a whole lot. But it was an incredible experience watching women birth, and it just kind of changed. It just changes your mind about kind of women's bodies. They're freaking amazing.
Absolutely. That's total agreement from me on that count. So my mind's jumping to the idea that in terms of the history of humankind, that's quite a unique job, going in and photographing that moment, because there are cultures where it's the midwife and the mother and that's it. There are cultures where it's a completely different framework, and it was only 100 years ago or 130 years ago that women were dragged kicking and screaming to hospitals to give birth, which was a new invention at the time. And then adding this new layer here, which some people might call it abnormal, and creating a new normal of documenting that process with a professional photographer.
I had both of my births photographed, which if you told me that kind of 10 or 15 years ago, I would have been like, oh my goodness, that is like the worst thing ever. But it's incredible what the body does, and to kind of celebrate that. I think it's really, and then a lot of the time, because like with women, people are either like drugged out, or they're also, I was so out of it the whole time it was going on, not from drugs, just because I was birthing. And so you just don't remember things. But there's just some of my favorite photos were just like the first time you see your new favorite person. Like, it's just and now I just show it to my kids. Like, we've created a culture in our family where we just like talk about our bodies, and I talk to my kids, I show them the birth photos. Like, there's nothing like, I didn't take photos and ask for photos up in your lady business. Like, it's all the kind of just emotional part of it. And I show the kids, and we talk about how I birthed and how it hurt and how excited I was to meet them, and watching their faces, like just them knowing how much I love them and how much I went through to have them. It's really wonderful. And it's also great because they know why my body is the way it is. Like, we talk about it. So one day my daughter came up to me and she looked at my belly and she was like, oh, what are those lines? And I was like, oh, I got these when my body stretched to make room for you when I grew you. And I said, do you like them? She's like, oh, they are so beautiful. And she just kind of like ran her fingers along them. And it's just that idea of like, we're told that stretch marks are gross and disgusting, but like, I don't know, like I like mine now. Just
for me, it's a sign of, having become a father. For me, that's a sign of, wow, I can identify with something you've gone through from a different experience, obviously, but it's a beautiful thing. I totally agree with your daughter on that count. And it's wonderful. Apparently, I didn't know this, but my mum told me that when I was really, really young, I just used to look at my mum and go, "You are beautiful," and she loved it. And I didn't know that, but also what's really sad to reflect upon is that I was one of the few people in her life that actually told her that. It's because of exactly what you're saying, that the media was promoting this image of petite, small waist, everything had to be perfect. And it's a minority of people. And it's great to see a book such as yours, which is challenging that by presenting diversity. And I think when you're having conversations with your daughter about these birthing experiences, I think one thing that your conversations are informed by is the diversity of births that you've been witness to, because I'm sure that they don't all look the same.
Oh no, not at all. Yeah, there are those people who like don't make a sound and kind of like just push out a baby like it's nothing, and then there's the knock down the walls, scream the roof down people, and and then the way that they exit, like all babies come into the world a little bit differently. And
I did this quasi doula training with the mother of my children, and we did it twice. And in this it's called She Births. In this training, I was given all these things that I could do for her during that experience that was really helpful. But the lady who set that program up was really interested in challenging what we understand as a normal birth. So challenging the idea that it has to be painful, challenging the idea that you have to be drugged, challenging the idea that the medicalization of it, or the over medicalization of it, I should say. She wasn't against hospitals or anything like that. It was just, she was about empowering people to make choices during those moments. And I see the same thing with your book. It's about empowering people to be within their bodies and not to resist their bodies. And when I hear the title, There Is No Normal, I hear you taking a weight off people's shoulders. I hear you saying, don't punish yourself for not being normal. There is no normal. Like, get rid of that.
That's a really nice way of putting it, actually, taking a weight off people's shoulders. I like the way you said that. I think I just wanted to take some of my own experiences and how as I said, like I see so many different women in my paid work, and that I really, in my arts practice, I wanted to make something that people could put on their coffee table or could sit down with their daughters and just be like, let's look at these bodies and let's kind of change the way we think about ourselves and our own expectations for our own bodies. And I just get so sad that so many women waste their time just thinking about their bodies all the time and the way they look constantly. And I just feel like if we could just kind of like be cool with the way we are, that we would just have so much more time to do more important things and like really live. Like I feel like a lot of women don't live, they just spend all their time thinking about how crappy they are. And I think it's great. I think it's great to go to the gym and get fit, but if you're doing that because you're self-flagellating, then I don't think that's healthy. That I think there's an element of self-flagellation at the gym in order to achieve normality or the normal body, or and that conflation of normal and ideal. I've got a strange question for you. Yeah, do it.
So when you asked people to be part of your book, and you say, "Hey, I'm looking for people who don't look normal," how did people react when you invited them to be part of this book?
Well,
hey, you don't look normal.
I think I do have a few very slim, very young, attractive, so-called normal women in the book, because I kind of just opened it up to everyone. I just said, because I've been photographing people in Canberra for a while, I don't have that many followers on social media, but I have enough that I was just like, hey dudes, I'm going to photograph a whole lot of ladies in their bathrooms naked, with the idea of showing each other our bodies and just being like, this is what I look like. What do you look like? And I had like 150 women say yes, which I was very surprised about, that so many people put their hands up, and 75 of them went through with it. So.
And why the bathroom?
Well, I wanted to have a space where people were comfortable being naked. I feel like giving people something to do and giving them kind of like a snapshot, giving people a snapshot into their lives of kind of like getting ready every day, and that kind of like just the pattern of people's lives, it feels a little bit less invasive. And I didn't want it to be like people were like posing or like traditional studio portraiture or anything like that. I just wanted it to be like a sneak peek into women's lives, just getting ready each day.
Did it prompt any reflections as you were photographing, or before or after, that people shared with you about? Actually, in the book, there are quite a few quotes from people, and some people were completely terrified and just wanted to get it over and done with and didn't want to ever think about it again. I think and these are volunteers though.
These are volunteers, and I think there are people actually out there women who volunteered who probably will never even look at the book because it was so confronting for them. And then there are other people who just were like, dude, I just felt like $1 million. Like I just had so much fun. And then other people were just like, I just had a nice time chatting to Amanda. Like I just talked to them about like their kids or their jobs or just while they washed their hair and stuff.
So the instructions were just go about your normal bathroom routine. I'm just going to be in the room snapping away.
Yeah, kind of. Yeah, that was pretty much it. We just like hung out in their bathroom while they got ready. Some people kind of like a few people actually borrowed friends' bathrooms because you have to have a window in the bathroom, like natural light. That was like my only thing about what kind of bathroom it was. So they kind of just they just kind of hung around in the bathroom and didn't really do like their normal routine. But there were definitely women who waited till I got there and just like did their normal thing, wash their hair, shave their legs, talk to me. And then it was interesting. It's really interesting for me watching people get ready, because you don't see that in everyday life. Like there was literally one lady who liked to air dry. So she like flipped out the towel, lay it on the bathroom floor, and then like lay like a starfish and just looked at the ceiling. And she's like, I really enjoy just drying like this. And I just thought that was it was just fun to see like different people, like the way that they get ready. And snooping on people's houses. Like I love looking at like people's tile choices and things like that.
If the instruction is go about your normal routine.
Yeah.
But you're the photographer in the room.
Yeah.
And that changes a little bit what people do. How do you, now let's assume there's such a thing as normal routine.
Yeah.
We don't need to challenge every aspect of normal for today. But because it's outside the normal routine to have someone in there with a camera.
Yes.
And how do you lower the anxiety? How do you make people feel comfortable? Both for the people who are comfortable doing the shoot, but also the people who were really outside of their comfort zone. I'm
really good at my job, and I've been a photographer since 2006. And I have this way of putting people at ease, and I don't know how I do it. It's just because I talk a lot. Like I just chat. I just feel like I'm not a very intimidating person as far as like I'm smiley and chatty, and I just talk to them until they chill out, which is, I treat it like I do with any portrait session. Like when even if I'm taking like a corporate headshot or something like that, I just talk to people and ask them questions about themselves. There was one person who was so terrified that I got her to actually face away from me and keep herself in a towel. And then she slowly, we just kept talking, and then as I talked and as she got more comfortable, she slowly dropped the towel little by little. And then eventually at the end, she was totally naked. But the thing is that, I didn't mention that the book, like, it's anonymous. So as far as like, I have no people's faces. Like, obviously, if you've got like big tattoos and things like that, like, your friends will know it's you. But a lot of the bodies, like, there are no faces in it. So I used like towels and creative cropping and things like that to keep people's faces out of it.
In some way, that moment you had where you consciously went to the swimming pool, the public swimming pool, and decided, I'm not going to wear board shorts. I'm going to defy my own, the way in which my own brain has been susceptible to media influence and has adopted this false idea of normality. Was this through doing the work of this book, was that a chance to pay forward that opportunity and invite other people to have that no board shorts at the swimming pool moment?
Yeah, I think so. Like, a lot of people I spoke to who signed up for this was their rebellious moment. This was their moment, almost their start of saying, I'm just sick of this. I'm tired of what I've been told. I'm tired of believing these lies that I don't have as much value as like my next door neighbor who is half my size. Yeah, I like that idea of paying it forward. So yeah, I guess so.
Do you have to change the way in which you photograph a normal body, like, you know, the popular image or the model image? Do you have to change the way in which you photograph a normal body versus a much more diverse array of bodies?
We are taught that as photographers. Like, there's actually things that we're told that particular sized bodies and things like that we're supposed to put them in a particular pose and don't have their arms touch their, like, the side of their body, because that'll like make their arms look fatter and stuff like that. And I've actually made a conscious effort in all of my photography work that I'm not going to hide anyone's bodies or put them in particular positions, because I think that just feeds into the idea that there's something wrong with us in the first place, that we need to be changed. Even when I like photograph myself or other people, I'm very conscious to like, a lot of my work has things like stomach rolls and things like that, just the things that you typically are told to hide. I just don't believe should be hidden.
In some aspects, this isn't a book about just capturing images of people who would be outside normality in terms of the media sense.
Yeah.
But also about recalibrating the photographic skills that you bring to the table to do this project as well.
I've really had to challenge myself, and especially the last few years as I've started to change, I have to look at the images that I'm taking or the way I'm positioning people. And I'm like, am I doing this because it's beautiful or it's an image that I want to create? Or am I putting someone in this position because I've been told that that's what I should do? So for example, things like, I photograph quite a lot of boudoir photography, which is like ladies in their underwear, like pictures of them, just like nice pictures for themselves, or they want to give their partner or something like that. And that's where I see a lot of bodies. And traditionally in that industry, they put plus size women, anyone over a certain size, they'll tend to like wrap them in like a fur rug and just show cleavage, or they'll tend to like put them in a men's shirt and like just to cover their bodies, but pretty much the only acceptable part of their bodies is like their cleavage. Within the work that I do with my clients, I just refuse to cover up their bodies because that was something that I had to retrain myself in, because I'm told that I need to pose them a certain way and I need to put the light on them a certain way. And it's just all bullcrap, honestly. Like, they look freaking hot, so I should just show their bodies how they are.
And all that training sort of just reinforces the popular image of normality as opposed to embracing diversity.
Yes.
So how can we push this work further? What questions do we need to ask about normality to take this to the next step?
When we're having conversations with each other, or like women to women or men to men, we just really need to look at bodies and ask ourselves the question, like, am I uncomfortable with this body because I've been trained to be uncomfortable with this body? Am I uncomfortable with myself because I've been trained to be uncomfortable with myself? And is there actually anything wrong with me or wrong with it? And most of the time the answer is no. We've just been taught very narrow standards of what is normal and what is acceptable, when there is this whole wonderful diverse world out there that we're like missing out on.
That captures something that I really want to spread in this series, and that is, if we can create a little bit of a space between a situation or an event in the world and our reaction to it, by questioning, oh, is my reaction to this just what I've been socially entrained to think? Or is my response to this moment, or is my own thinking pattern to this just because of a false belief in normality? If we can create more of a space between that moment and the reaction, or that moment and the response, then maybe we can change the way in which we're thinking, and we can be more socially inclusive. We can be much more accepting of ourselves and much more accepting of other people, and that we can increase tolerance, increase patience towards ourselves and towards other people. And that, for me, is exactly why I think we really need to question normality.
Yeah, for sure.
Amanda Thorson, thank you so much for being a part of the series today. It's been really wonderful speaking with you. Thank you so much.
Thanks for having me.
And listeners at home, we really hope that you've enjoyed this episode with photographer Amanda Thorson. Keep an eye out for her book, There Is No Normal. And I think a simple Google browse will turn it up eventually.
Yep.
Or DuckDuckGo, or a Cozier if you're environmentally savvy. And don't forget to like, share, and subscribe to the channel, because we love being connected to community and sharing all these diverse perspectives on normality.